My name's Noah. In this video, I'm going to be covering the 3 most profitable types of email campaigns. And if you're watching this video, either you work for a brand, you're a brand owner, or work on a retention or email team, and you might be struggling with a few things. One is your campaign calendar. Every single month, you either are firing from the hip, or when you create your content calendar, you actually have no rhyme or reason for creating the campaigns you're just kind of shooting content randomly out to customers with no thought. 2, you're trying to nail down your stats and your analytics and just trying to report on the differences of campaigns, just because obviously a new product drop is not going to perform the same way as a general nurturing campaign, but they shouldn't. So how do you actually tag, track, and report on the differences of different kinds of campaigns? And then lastly, you'll be able to see, just using this example of Spikeball, these 3 campaigns. By the end of this video, you will be able to identify the unique differences of how these 3 campaigns are actually wildly different from each other. So if you stick around, again, let me some of that short attention span for 5 to 6 minutes, you will walk away getting results like this. No, just kidding, you won't. This is just a quick example to show this is what can happen when you properly send out the right kinds of campaigns at the right times for one of the brands that we currently work with. So without further ado, let me just jump into the rant. So at Duh, we classify our campaigns in 3 different ways. So anytime before we even start writing the copy, designing a mock-up, we think about the strategy of the split in a given month of 3 campaign types: promos, heroes, and education. Obviously, you can probably get a lot just from the titles of what those campaign types are, but I want to be explicitly clear because while each campaign is different, you can steal elements from each one, right? So let me go ahead and just jump right in. So promo campaigns. Promos are campaigns where they're timely in nature. This is something where there's some newness, there's some seasonality, there's a time-sensitive release. When you send a promo campaign, there's a specific reason of why you sent it at that exact day or time. So some of the examples of promo emails that we send out on a regular basis, one is product and collection drops. So anytime a new brand, let's just say it's Nike. Nike's about to come out with the new Vomeros. It's going to be the Vomero 19s. Rather than just throwing the Vomeros, that product, on the website, you want to have a thoughtful drop of how you're going to potentially tease the new shoes, show a silhouette of it, say, hey, it's coming out in 2 days. Then you drop it on a specific day at noon sharp. And then 2 days later, you remind anybody who did not click or open the drop email, right? This is timely. This is something that is new. This is something you want to put additional and extra emphasis on. We count that as a promo. Another is just when I said the word promo, what your mind probably went to is any kind of sale or offer, right? So this can be anything from a $1 off, a % off, a free gift with purchase, whatever the actual offer is. This tends to be hey, you get 20% off if you buy a bundle for the next 7 days. We would treat that as a promo campaign because there is an end date to it and it is timely, again, in nature. And then the last thing is, this is kind of like where it gets a little bit gray area depending on your brand. But again, just the word that you heard me throw around multiple times is newness. It could be because there's a new product drop. It could be because you're about to release something. If you are doing something in the real world and you want to do some kind of local activation, for example, Tom Holland's brand Biro, that's the non-alcoholic beverage brand that's in Target. They ran a campaign that it's one that we actually do for a lot of brands as well, where we have customers take pictures of receipts to redeem them as loyalty points on e-com. It's a way to activate people locally and also get people who have been into a Target to activate on the e-commerce side, right? It's just a cool little promo that you can do that, again, I would call that a promo because that doesn't elegantly fit in the next 2 campaign types that I'm about to talk about. So when I'm showing you examples of promos and I do a little mini quiz on you through this video, just remember what promos are: newness, collection drops, promotional sales. Next, we have hero emails. Hero emails are going to consist, I would say about 30% of a month's emails will be hero pushes. And this is just geared for pushing a certain product or collection. Your goal in this email is to highlight some kind of feature, talk about it in some way. You're not educating, which that's very different. You're not trying to make this a super long email. You're almost just trying to flag products in front of customers and give them something to bite on. What I tell my team is, depending on if we're talking about the pros or the cons, the dream outcomes, the pain points, towards the cheese from the cat, this is typically where we will choose one main angle to talk about and then really double down inside of that email. So for example, inside of a hero email, you might see something like a general call out. This is literally as simple as a brand like Young LA, where they come out with a new collection, or let's just say an apparel brand like Dark Sport. They do gym apparel and they always work with different intellectual property. Like they have a Spider-Man drop. It's this graffiti style Spider-Man, Venom, Goblin shirts. So if that wasn't a promo, let's say the Spider-Man collection has been on their website for 6 months, they've got some dead stock, they're just trying to push it, they will just do a general call out hero campaign where it's just like, hey, I don't know if you know, but did you know that we've got the Spider-Man collection? Come buy it. Again, it's more nuanced than that, but you're literally just talking about a product, you're putting it in the title and saying buy now. Very simple. Another thing that you can do inside of hero campaigns is you highlight some kind of USP, so like a unique selling proposition. USPs, it really just depends. For example, if you are Create Gummy, so Create Wellness, they sell a creatine gummy. What you might do as a unique USP is talking a little bit about, how the formula works. And again, that actually, scratch that, that's more of an education. A better example would be if they are talking about the different flavors of when to have it in the seasons, right? Maybe it's like strawberry in the spring, have our orange flavor in the winter, and have the, sour cherry in the Christmas time, right? You're not really educating on something about the product, but you're using this like clever, unique angle of the seasons, or, people do astrology and things like that in their campaigns to just make it engaging enough, because again, your goal is just to push that gummy, to push these 3 SKUs, those 3 flavors I called out. That is how you would talk about some kind of USP, or you could even go into feature callouts of the gummies themselves. And then the last one, and I kind of just touched that, and I skipped around a little bit, so pardon that, but it's really just doing things that are timely or unique. So for example, if you run a Magic playing card brand, inside of your email, you could just say, pick a card, and then you have panels of the backs of bicycle playing cards. So there's 6 different unique cards. You link each one of those to a different deck on your website. That is unique, right? That is a hero push, right? There's no rhyme or reason for you to do that. It's just extremely engaging. And when someone clicks on one of those cards to reveal it in the email, it sends them to a different landing page where you're trying to just get the sale. It's an engaging way to spin a boring email that says, hey, buy this. It makes it a little bit fun, gets more clicks, gets more people to your product pages, to your landing pages, and inevitably you will sell more if you make it more unique. You don't want to be boring. Cool. Lastly, before we jump in, hang with me. I promise you, I'm going to show you some pretty crisp examples and quiz you real quick on if you really understand the differences between these types of campaigns. But the last one is going to be education. This is exactly how it sounds. In these campaigns, you are gearing them to engage the reader and leave them with some kind of new knowledge about your industry, your category, your product, or your brand. Any one of those. So inside of this, you might just be explaining how the product works, right? Maybe you have a collagen supplement and you need to explain, hey, this is how you're going to feel day 1, day 7, week 2, week 4. You're really just explaining something about the product. Another is you're explaining USPs. Again, I just stole this from Hero Pushes, but you're doing it in depth. So you're really going into, how the creatine monohydrate R string really works, right? It's a 5-section email where every single section talks about the science or something in depth, right? It doesn't have to be, and here's a big point to make sure I get across is just because it is long does not mean it needs to be heavy in copy or heavy in design. Like you need to play around with the format of both design and copy so they work together to make sure at the end of the day, it's engaging and valuable. Those are your only criteria for making these campaigns. Other things, you could bring up some kind of study or timely article that's kind of like floating around if it is, somewhat pertinent to your space. You can go in depth on ingredients, materials, anything you could talk about of how the product is actually made. So if you are a premium bedding brand, you might talk about the thread count. You might talk about how it's good for neurodivergent sleepers. Maybe you talk about how your specific cooling sheets help women with menopause, right? Like that's where you can kind of tie in both the USP and ingredients, if you saw that right there. You can reference organic. That is a great thing. If you're working with or for a brand where they're actually doing real cool things in the world, you'll want to talk about that. Any excuse you have to repurpose content from organic channels or push things that are happening, that is something you should definitely do because it's going to save you a lot of time and you're going to leverage resources better for the brand. Again, there's a lot of other things you can do here, but one thing I want to leave is building authority. So building authority is ultimately one of the best things you can do through email, just because it's cheap, it's one of the most intimate places you can be, and it's your direct line of communication with customers. So if you're ever going to talk, good about your brand, you want to build authority in the inbox, right? So with all that said, I'm just going to jump down to a couple examples that I have here at the bottom of emails that my team has made. We do not work with these brands. These are example brands that, we've just built out internally to get these trainings and points across of hero education and promo. But I want to cover them just so you see exactly what these can look like and shape up if you were to actually go implement this for your brand. So these first 4 emails, funny enough, these are actually welcome flow emails, but they could perfectly work as education emails. right? In every single one of these, if you just kind of jump into it, notice how in all of these, you don't really see in the first two specific products. That's not a hero push. These are not hero pushes. These are just talking about the brand, break away from the status quo, chasing powder and cutting edge tech, right? These are talking about USPs. And then in the following sections, it's talking about more, right? Why Forefront has the sauce, right? Sorry, it's lingo for the brand. It's talking about the aspen maple core, the vulcanized rubber tip. It's trying to push them into different categories of like, hey, what kind of skier are you? Powder, touring, free ride, all mountain. We've got a little quote down here with a branded image right in the background. There's nothing really we are pushing. There's no specific product, no specific collection. So that rules out a hero campaign. And there's no kind of timely nature to this. So this is education. This next email, this you could kind of debate me on. This originally was going to be a hero push, but the length makes it look like an education. So that's earlier when I was talking about how you can take elements from certain email types. This is a good example. I also want to leave you with a quick rule of thumb is promo emails can be your shortest campaigns in terms of length. Education tend to be your longest. Internally, the way that we think about it is promo emails should be 1 to 2 sections, hero emails should be 2 to 4 sections, and education should be no less than 3 sections if you're trying to get a point across, and that typically is 3 to 6 sections. So in this example, this is a little bit of a longer hero email, but because we are pushing specific SKUs, that is what I would deem a hero push, right? We're not sure we are educating, so that is a little bit of like in these elements of talking about the thicknesses of the edges, the twin tips, the shape of the skis. That's okay. You can add those. It adds to the email, but this is a hero push explicitly because you are pushing specific products in this email. And then this last one is very easy. This is an education, right? We link them to a survey potentially showing them how, the survey works. And this has nothing to do with like pushing for the sale or any kind of promo, right? Here's another brand where this is an example of hero pushes. And in both of these, this first one is the Biso Jelly lipstick and balm. So in this email, we are just going heavy. We've got beautiful imagery on the top. We're talking about USPs in the middle. And then we do call to action of finding their signature color. And this is a perfect example of a hero email because you are showing the full range of the product, USPs about the actual ingredients, talking about why it's unique. And then you're also, again, highlighting all the different colors because one of the most important things you can do in the email is show variance. When you show variance, you increase the odds you get someone to click. If you just show someone a single color of one of, let's just say you're, run an email for an apparel brand and you just show a hero image of a model wearing a red shirt and you don't show like little swatches or variants or SKUs or collages of all the other colors, someone's going to open that, say, oh, cool red shirt. I don't wear red. Close. Be thoughtful about it. Figure out ways to show more without cluttering up the email. That's just a quick tip I'll leave you. And then same thing here, feeling blue. This is where, this is the unique angle, a USP. It's like this feeling blue. So it's a blue themed email. So it gives us the right to now show multiple blue products. That is something where that is just a unique spin, right? Similar to a recipe guide or whatever, what have you. This next email, this is for Erda. This is a prime example of an education email. Even in the CTA, it's learn more. Learn more is a clear sign most of the time that is going to be some kind of education. As we go down, it gives the, us versus them style branded chart here, talking more about the way they use synthetic free as well as ethically sourced products. And then towards the bottom, again, shop rituals, very broad. This is a perfect example of an education campaign because you are just giving multiple USPs and you're not trying to push for the sale. There's nowhere in here aside from the middle and bottom CTAs, which you got to scroll past all this information to. And even then, we're not like pushing a 2x2 matrix of saying like, hey, now choose a product based on this information. This is strictly to educate and to nurture customers. That's the goal of this email. We've got a few others. I'm just going to look at both of them back and forth to save you some time. This first one, again, is another interesting one. This is like a unique USP of a hero push. Again, would you rather we only show some other wooden SKUs, as well as we add some of these like very common 2x2 matrices trying to show specific products. Again, variants, show them more, increase the likelihood you get to click. Then on the next one, this is more of a, again, education push because notice all these callouts. I'm not saying buy this chair. I'm not saying grab this couch. I'm saying, no, this is made of Oikotex. This is the best, most certified premium pleather you're going to ever buy. Looks real, feels real. It's natural. These are all things that, again, it's made from recycled plastic. And again, we do have CTAs that say shop now, but we're not pushing them to a certain SKU. Now, the last one, the one that we have not covered yet, is a promo. This is an example of a giveaway brand that gives away vans every, I believe it's like 4 or 5 weeks. I would have to go double check. I'm not sure. But here's an example of them running a 100x multiplier for 48 hours. 48-hour flash sale, perfect example of a promo email. And again, remember how I said earlier how you can cross different, parts of hero and throw it in education and parts of education and throw them in promo? Here's an example where we use a 2x2 matrix, which feels like a hero push. But again, what is the overall objective of this campaign? Because if you comp this or you compare this to any email in the future, you want to only compare it to other promo emails because the objective, the main offer is the 100x. And that's obviously going to outperform any regular, hey, buy this shirt kind of email for van life, right? So we've got a nice above the fold call out here for 48 hours only, 100x entries. We push them. We even add these little call outs saying, hey, how many entries you're going to get. This is a promo email. Now, a day later, if we were working for this brand, and again, there's 24 hours left, look at this. This is a hero email, right? Because we're showing people in the above the fold, groove into gear. We're showing them 3 shirts and saying, hey, buy these shirts. As well as down here, we're saying buy these specific products. Again, whatever you see above the fold typically will tell you what the campaign type is. But notice something really cool. At the top here, we have this optimized graphic pencil banner that again has an element of promo. This is again, you need to make sure you have the objective of the email, but don't let that stop you from adding valuable elements from the other campaign types. So this is a hero push with a promo element, right? And then same thing here. Double the rides, double the fun. This is talking about an ongoing giveaway. This is actually an education, right? Because enter now to win. Sure, we're pushing them to enter into the giveaway, but notice how we're really just talking about features. It's almost like a rundown. Hey, here are the specs, right? Look at the giveaway, check out what you can get from it, grab some merch, right? You might be able to debate me that this is potentially a promo, but again, this would not perform the same as, again, above the fold. If this above the fold said, hey, 48-hour flash sale, we're going to give you 2 free shirts for the price of 1. That's not going to perform the same as a nurturing kind of email that is educating like this kind of email, right? And that's it. So, at the end of the day, I hope you got something out of this. You can go back to the brand you're working with or working for. You can basically, to really sum everything up, the reason why this is so important is if you send too many of one kind of campaign type, you are not going to get maximum performance for the brand, right? Because at the end of the day, if you send people too many discounts, they're going to get numb to them. If you send too much nurturing education content, you're going to keep hitting people who already understand your brand and they're going to say, dude, I understand what your wallets do. You don't need to keep telling me about the silk from the random alpacas you get. Like, I get it, right? And you also want to do too many hero pushes because if you're just saying, buy my shit, like that's not going to work out. That is where the elegance comes. That is where strategy comes in. It's, again, comparing. Make sure you're tagging as well. In Klaviyo, very simple. Set up campaign tags. So anytime you set out or set launch one of these campaign types, you tag it as promo, you tag it as hero, you tag it as education. Then when you do your 30-day, 60-day, or 90-day retro and you're looking and you're analyzing how campaigns did, you can just bucket the promos, just bucket the heroes, just bucket the education. Very simple, not rocket science, not complicated, but that is what is going to take an email account that's doing an attributed revenue of 15 to 20% to somewhere in the range of 25 to 40%, like you can see here. This is one of the most actionable things you can do from a content strategy standpoint, a planning standpoint, and also for just general performance. This is going to make your life a lot easier, and I promise you're going to see pretty good results from it too. So yeah, if there's any other videos anyone who's watching this wants to see, feel free to leave a comment because happy to shoot anything else. Just, we've been in the game now for about 3.5 years. We've generated over 40 million in email revenue for clients. And at this point, we're working with some pretty big brands, awesome brands. I would love to just kind of like dive into anything that we've learned. So cool. Appreciate the time.